The little voice said, hey, you know, eat a cookie. And I'm like, well, I have a break. And now the little voice is like, oh, he's listening to me. Oh, we got him now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my recap of 2022. So this one's gonna be a bit of a long video because I did 10 shows and I want to kind of go through a little bit of kind of the in-depth behind the scenes of like why I did certain shows and, you know, what I liked, what I didn't like. So before I jump into the 10 shows, I want to touch on a couple of things real quick. So first, like, why did I do 5 federations, 10 shows? Pros and cons real quick, and then like just my biggest like lesson learned from the whole year. Why 5 federations? When I started competing in natural bodybuilding, I only competed in 1 federation. So I just wanted to see how other people do things and see if, you know, I like those things, don't like them, you know. And why did I do 10 shows? That one's really easy because for me, the most enjoyable part of competing is competing. Like show day, like I enjoy like being on stage and actually like battling and being able to showcase my physique. Okay, so pros and cons real quick. Pros of doing 10 shows, it's a lot of traveling and I enjoy traveling. So if you like traveling, hey, that's a big pro. Second thing I'd say is the beauty of doing 10 shows is like, if you messed up on something, you say, oh, I messed up on my routine or I messed up on my T-walk or I got feedback from the judges and they said, hey, you need to fix this one little thing about your posing, and you're only doing like 1 or 2 shows and your season's like over with, you're like, oh, I have to wait until like next year to do it. But when you're doing like 10 shows, you're like, okay, cool, bet. Like I got a show in 2 weeks. I can try it then. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like you can kind of make those changes and get feedback to see what worked, what didn't work. And then I say the last pro of doing like so many shows is you meet a lot of different people. And I've, you know, met people this year that I've still been in contact with and that'll be, you know, really good friends going forward. So that was fun. Cons, number 1 con, obvious con, it's expensive. So if you just think like 10 shows, I didn't do my own tan, so I paid for a tan every time, $150, $160, 10 shows. I mean, you can do the math real quick. That's just on the tan. So you start talking about flights and hotels and registrations and memberships. Okay, so the next con I would say is probably an obvious one. It is pretty taxing on your mental and your physical. Like it takes a lot to get through that many. And that's the part that I wasn't really sure how I was going to do with, but man, that it was tougher than I thought. I'd say the last con is doing that many shows. It sort of makes each show less special. So competing, making it to the stage it's a celebration. Like a lot of people start prep, not a lot of people finish it. So actually making it to the stage and being able to like enjoy the moment, soak it all in, it should be celebrated and you should be able to kind of like feel it. But when you're doing that many shows, it's like, okay, you do one and then it's like on to the next. So it kind of feels a little less special. There was some of the shows I felt like I did and I kind of floated through and I don't have as many warm and fuzzies as I would have if I had done less shows, but that's kind of how it is. All right. And then the last thing, lessons learned. So I'd say the biggest lesson that I learned from this year is that I need to be close to 100% to be competitive when I'm stepping on stage. For me, I don't have the physique that can come in a little bit off and still place well. There's some guys that they can come in off and still place top 3. If I come in off, I may get run out of the building. Like it doesn't work. And that actually is very useful to know. That helps me sort of plan future seasons. All right, so let's actually get into the shows. So the first show was in May. That was the PNBA Battle Against Cancer show that was in California. That was the only show that I actually drove to. It was like 2 hours away. And I actually have a vlog, a show day vlog of that one, so I won't speak a whole lot about that one. You can kind of see the show day vlog and you can kind of like check that out. But I will say the reason why I did that show, which is, you know, kind of like not covered in the vlog, if you kind of look back and you kind of, you know, study your shows, the people that have won that show in the past couple of years, they have set themselves up to do really well at the Natural Olympia at the end of the year. I wanted to make a statement, come in, you know, kind of see where I'm at. And I only did open that show. I wish I kind of had done open and masters. But I did open and I ended up placing second, and it was a fun battle up there. I would say I remember having a feeling, this is kind of a little behind the scenes, I remember having a feeling the judge moved me sort of like in the center, and of course you kind of know what that means. And so I just got like that feeling of like, man, this is fun. And so I was in the center for a bit, and then they moved me out of the center, but I still had that same feeling like, hey, you know, it's a battle, like, let's see how the chips fall where they may. So I ended up, you know, placing second, but it was still like I had like loads of fun. I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed that show a lot. The next show was the Dallas Showdown Classic, NFF. If we were like giving awards for shows, I'd say this show would get a lot of awards, because in the first one would be the FOMO award, because they started promoting this show like in December. So it's like 6 months. People will post shows and say, hey, you know, here's the schedule for next year or something like that. But I'm talking about like full blown like promotion. Like it was out there. Like people were signing up, and I would say the way like Isaac Johnson, he was the promoter of that one. The way he promoted that show was different than a lot of, I guess, the traditional way of promoting. And I thought it was really cool, really innovative. And basically every time, you know, a pro was being added, it was very visible, like who was in the show, how many you had. And so that kind of was building off of each other. And so people just wanted to be a part of it. So I thought that was cool. I mean, they paid out top 5, so that makes it feel like a big show. To me, I feel like that makes it feel more like a big show versus paying top 3 higher dollar amounts, if that makes sense. Like paying first place $5,000 is cool, but if you can pay top 5, to me, I don't know, it just seems like you would, to me, it feels bigger. But I mean, you know, that's, you know, if you talk to people who are winning those 5K, they would probably tell you different. But anyway, leading up to the show, there was a lot of communication going forward. Like I say, if there was an award, like Isaac would get another award as in like the most communication leading up into a show. Almost every week or every other week, we were getting emails about the show and keeping us engaged. And we did like it's kind of like getting to know people, like the 60 seconds with the DSC Pro. So he would kind of ask us like these rapid fire questions. I mean, things like that. It was really cool, really creative. I had never seen, you know, kind of things like that done before. Let me actually like get into the show. And again, I did a vlog on this one, so you can watch that too. But I will say, so for this one, they had a short and a tall class, and I competed. So the top 3 from the short and then the top 3 from the tall would battle it out for the top 5 in overall. So my goal was to get top 3 in the tall, but in the tall we had Murph, we had Mario, we had Leo, which I met him there, and then me, and then you had Marcus Mercer. So and a couple of other guys that looked pretty solid too. So I knew it was going to be a battle. As they were moving us around, I felt like I was 3rd, 4th in the tall class, so I knew it was going to be tough. I ended up not making the finals, and so I was disappointed with that one because I didn't make it. But it was interesting to see because I am not an emotional eater. Like outside of like prep or bodybuilding or anything, if I get like bad news or sad news or something like that, it would almost take my appetite away. I found it interesting that early in the season, like when I got bad news, it didn't really have an effect either way on me to say, oh, I don't now have an appetite or make me want to eat or anything. It wasn't a part of the equation. Later in the season, when I got bad news, oh, it was completely opposite. So I'll kind of get into that a little bit later, but I thought that was interesting. That's one thing I kind of observed later on in the year. But anyway, last thing about Dallas, I would say, if one last award, like best music award, like on stage, I would say that music had me like vibing. So I'd say that probably has like best music award. That was cool too. So 2 weeks later, this is like mid-June, I had the IPE St. Louis Classic. This was the first time I did IPE, so I was very curious to see how that was going to go. This one was really interesting. I enjoyed this show a lot too. They did some things that were a little bit different. So during the check-ins, they had, you know, the printouts of each of the classes, so you could see exactly how many people were in your class. You could see the schedule, all of that in check-ins the night before. So I really liked that. But one of the things I believe they did, because they had the paper at the check-ins, it showed your number and everything. So part of the check-in process was you told them what your number was because you could see it on the paper, and then they would give you, you know, your number in your bag and all that. So it was a little bit easier, a little bit faster, as opposed to you saying your name and then they're looking at the roster and they're trying to find you. And oh, okay, here you are, and now, okay, what's your number? So something like that. So I thought that was a little bit different how they did that, but I like that. Another thing I'd say I liked about the IPE St. Louis Classic show is that the host hotel was walking distance to the venue. So, I mean, when you're traveling and all that, you're going to have to either get a rental car or Uber or something like that. So, you know, just walking to the venue, that was easy for me. The other thing I'll say, if we're talking about like show awards and everything, so the best pump up award goes to this show, like hands down, it's not close. Because the venue was, I think, like the college in St. Louis. The pump-up area was literally a gym. So, I mean, you had basically everything you would need to, like, work out. You had everything you wanted. And it was, like, heavyweights. Like, you could, you know, get a real pump. So, like, sometimes that shows, it's like, oh, okay, you can pump up with the bands. But, man, that doesn't feel the same as, like, when you're at the gym and you get, like, this crazy sick pump and you look in the mirror and you're like, man, why can't I look like this on show day? It's like, so for me, I liked some real weights. So that St. Louis had some real weights. So for that one, I competed in Open and Masters. And I would say out of the 10 shows, that one was my best look. Like I came in, because I was a little disappointed with the Dallas, I made sure to come in like as good as I could be. And I'll say I nailed it. Like that was my best look for sure. I think my waist was the smallest it was the whole year. Like literally just nailed it. And so I ended up placing third in Open, which I was, you know, happy about because the two guys that beat me, Dex and Logan, I mean, you know, they look ridiculously like sick, right? And then I won Masters. So that was my first win in Masters of the year. So that was really cool. So walked away with, you know, some money with that one. So I was excited after that one. But then I will say this is where things sort of took a turn, because I had, you know, those May through June shows. Then I had next a show planned in July. So I had about a 3 to 4 week break planned. And during prep, you have a little voice that says, hey, you know, at least for me, you have a voice that says, hey, you know, eat some cake, eat some cookies, eat some crap. And I'll just say like, no. And it goes away. I don't hear the voice for like a week. But then when I have that little break and then the little voice said, hey, you know, eat a cookie. And I'm like, well, I have a break. And now the little voice is like, oh, he's listening to me. Oh, we got him now. So ever since then, that little voice, literally from then to the end of the year, it was loud. It was loud because I let it in. It just got loud, and I wasn't as sharp and nailed everything to the T like I did at the beginning of the year. So anyway, I ended up like eating a lot, and I ended up pulling out of the July show. The next show was a USBF show in August, was the Midwest Legends Classic. Out of all the shows, this is the one show that I wanted to do the best in. Like if you say, hey, what's the one show that you really wanted to nail? It's that one. And why? Because it was the highest payout for Masters out of all the shows that I had planned. So it was 1600. And it was a, you know, Masters Pro show, so I really wanted to do really well. It was the first USBF show, so I want, you know, test that out. And I'll say, you know, if you want to talk about awards, I'll say this one would get like the best backstage like treats award, hands down. Like they had some good stuff. Like they had a table full of stuff. And after the show, I was devouring all of it. Like, and even at the USBF championships in November, they had a bunch of good treats. So USBF put some good treats. So, but anyway, so I don't talk about food for the show. But the show itself, stage was awesome. It really worked with me. I almost didn't make it because my flight got delayed. So I let them know and they just said, hey, be sure to see me like right in the morning. So I missed check-in. I missed the first coat of tan the night before, all that. Because I literally got to the hotel at midnight. So I was hoping that wasn't going to ruin the look or everything. But, I still came in, looking pretty good. And I appreciated them for being flexible and, working with me. I was the first person to get the tan, on show day, and so then kind of let it sit in, and then I got my second coat in. So, all that worked out really well. So I was glad to do, well at that show. It was run really smooth. Like the expediters were on top of everything, letting us know, hey, this is how much time you got. So it was really smooth. I was impressed with how, to the T time they were with how things were going. This was in August, and now I had basically 4 peak weeks in a row. So I had 4 shows in 4 weekends. So the USBF was the first one, and then the next there were 2 IPE shows. So I had the IPE Windy City, and that was in Chicago. That one brought out some hitters with that one. And I didn't realize that so many people were coming to that one, but it was really interesting. But that one I will say was fun, and the promoter seemed like, very encouraging, very energetic. So yeah, so I like that one. I like the stage on that one. I would say the only downside about that one is the backstage pump up area. It was basically like a small hallway with like 3 little mirrors. And so because of that, it was a little cramped, and so I didn't want to like cramp anybody's style. So I kind of like pumped up away from people. But because I did that, I didn't see myself in the mirror, and I actually got my oil and all my shine. I got all that like super early because the way the tanners did it, they did it a little bit different. Like the way I was used to is people put the oil on, with the hands and the gloves and patch it down and all that. But when I got my tan, they put the shine on, and they're like, oh, this is your shine, and so you won't need another coat or whatever. So, and they did it really early. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I won't need it. And so because I didn't look at myself pump up in the mirror, I didn't really have any shine on. And another thing I did with that one is I wanted to experiment because I wanted to come in sharp. So I didn't eat a whole lot, for a carb up for this one, because I wanted to be like, super crispy. And the judges' feedback was, when they're not looking at, oh, yeah, you look pretty good. They're looking at what sets people apart. And so for one of the things that set me apart is I didn't have any shine on. It wasn't glistening. So that it looked like it wasn't popping enough. And then I wasn't popping enough because I didn't have enough food in me to help me get pumped up enough. So one of the things they said, man, you look good, but it looked like you didn't quite pop enough. It looked like you had a pop, but not a big pop. So I'm like, so I understood exactly what they were saying, and I knew how to change that, which was cool. But the thing that I really liked about that show was that, like I say, like there were heavy hitters in there, and there was like 9 or 10 of us in there, and I just wanted to make the top 5. Like I wanted to make finals, and they called out, Murph, so he was making it. They called out Dex, so he was making it. Johnny Dotson, who was, Mr. America, so he was getting in there. And then they had A. Clark from Texas. He had just did a show the previous month, and I believe he beat Mario Hill. And if you beat Mario, you're talking some, you got a dope physique. So you had those guys, and then you had me, and then there's some other guys there that looked pretty sick. So I was like, man, I just wanted to be in that mix. And so when they called my number in the top 5, I was ecstatic. I was like, I don't care if I just got 5th. Like, I just, just to be standing with these names, like, that's great. And so that's what I got, was 5th. But once I got the feedback, and I was like, dang, I may could have gotten, maybe a spot or 2 higher just, from making those little slight adjustments. So the next show, which was the next week, which was the IPE Oklahoma City, or Cowboy Classic in OKC, I went a little bit too ham. Like I went the other way on it. So, you know, talk about pumping up and talking about popping. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be sure to pop in this one. So I ate like way too much. I ate until the night before. And then the morning of the breakfast, oh, you should have seen it. It looked like a breakfast that, you know, a whole football team would eat. Like, like I ate so much food. It was delicious. I could have eaten more, but I was, you know, I was like, man, I'm carving up. I want to be full. I ate a ton of food. And it was at like 7 o'clock. And the thing I didn't realize about this one, Men's Physique actually went first. So usually they go, oh, bodybuilding and maybe figure and maybe Men's Physique. So, but Men's Physique went first. So I ate all that food, and it was sitting on my stomach. Like I had spilled. It was a mess. And yeah, I felt bad about that one because there was 5 or 6 of us in that one, and I ended up getting 4th in that one. So the previous week I got 5th. I was ecstatic. Got 4th in this one, and I was hot. I was not happy, but I was, you know, not like, oh, I'm mad at the judges. No, I'm mad at me. Like I messed that one up. The venue was nice. The stage was huge. Backstage, plenty of room, like no problems. But I'll say maybe another con of doing so many shows, sometimes things kind of slip through the cracks. I thought I had emailed my song to the promoter, and I apparently I didn't. I missed it. And when I went out there to do my posing routine, they were just playing house music because they didn't have my song. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I ended up trying to like kind of freestyle it, and yeah, it didn't. I mean, you know, they don't really judge like the posing routine. They judge it for like best poser, but it just, you know, it was one of those things that you just, there was a lot off with that show. So I didn't deliver on that one. All right, so the camera died, so I'm gonna try to pick up the pace a little bit. We're at show number 7. This was the PNBA Zeus Classic. That was in San Leandro, California. I actually took the Amtrak train, so that was nice and convenient. The interesting thing about that show is Zeus Classic was the first natural show that I did back in 2018, and I actually won Novice Men's Physique at that show. So it's like, hey, you know, come back to the first show, see if I can get me a pro win. So I entered Pro, Men's Physique Open, and then Masters. And I ended up winning Masters, and I took 3rd in Open. I like the PNBA, so it's different than, you know, the other organizations because you have to do, you know, a lot of the bodybuilding poses. So I actually like a lot of those. So, you know, good thing about that show, lots of room backstage. You know, a lot of the PNBA folks, a lot of the PNBA pros pretty much only compete in the PNBA. So it's good to kind of like reconnect and see people again. So, but I will say, like, after that show, you know, show number 7, I was feeling it. Like, you want to talk about the voice in your head, like I couldn't quiet it. I was eating a lot. And so then the next show, I think I had maybe a 2 or 3 week break, and the next show coming up was Mr. America. I'd say the second show that I wanted to do like the best on was Mr. America. Like obviously because it's Mr. America. So I have the show day vlog. You know what happened, or you can kind of see like what happened, but long story short, I was out of town the week before peak week of Mr. America, and I ate like crap, like pure crap. And like I said, from my lessons learned, just, yeah, when I eat like that for a week, I don't have the type of physique where it's like, oh, you know, whatever. Yeah, no, you could see it. And the judges were like, oh yeah, you came in off. And I knew exactly why. So it was disappointing. But the thing was, after that show, I ate, man. I ate a lot. And, you know, because it was a, you know, disappointing loss, comfort food, I don't know. I was eating a lot of treats. And it wasn't like, oh, okay, I was eating a whole lot of rice or potatoes or, you know, eggs, egg whites. Pfft, no, I was eating treats, cookies, cake, donuts, a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been eating. The thing was, after I would eat that stuff for a day or two, my weight would spike, of course. I would then do a ton of cardio and cut my calories way low to get my weight back down for the next show. And so I was doing a lot of this. Earlier in the year, I was just, you know, steady weight loss. But then, you know, talk about show 5, 6, 7, my weight was doing a lot of this week to week, especially like post show would go up and then spike down. And I think that's really what took a toll on my body at the end of the year, as in I couldn't hold on to any muscle. So the next show was the NFF Chitown Showdown. So it was NFF Chitown show. And this was an invitational, so each class only had like 6 pros, and Masters starts at 35 with this one. It was a really cool show. It was different. The venue, the way they had the judges set up, it was almost like at eye level. So because it was the seats raised up. So it was cool. Like I enjoyed the vibe because it was like less people. Then it felt a little bit more intimate. So that was kind of cool. But that was one of the ones that went by pretty fast. The host hotel was walking distance to the venue, so again, that was really cool. And I ended up taking 4th in that one. You know, I didn't feel like I was on. I felt, you know, I was doing my best to get back to where, you know, I could look respectable, but I was still chasing that St. Louis look all year and never got there. So then show number 10 was the USBF championships, and that was in November. And I didn't place in open, and I got 3rd in Masters. Again, weights doing that, and this time I really had to diet hard to get back. And I mean, I cut my calories super low and ramped up the cardio super high. And I came in looking super flat, like does he even lift type look. So yeah, it didn't work. And I was seeing that my body was getting worse each show, especially from show 7. So the plan was to actually do the Natural Olympia the week after. And I was looking forward to that so that I could, you know, be going up against Michael Wittick. You know, he's a really good Masters pro, and I really wanted to share the stage with him. But man, my body was just not, it was on the downswing. So I ended up pulling out of the show, and I didn't do the Natural Olympia. And it's probably for the best, because I don't think I would have done well. Like, those guys came in on, basically waved the white flag at 10 shows. I mean, that was the season right there. My plan was to do anywhere between like 8 and 15, so I ended up at 10. So it's like, okay, not bad. So this video is kind of long. What am I gonna do next year? I'll make another video about, you know, next year and all that. I'm definitely going to enjoy this off season. Thanks for watching the recap. Thanks for sticking in if you watched all the way to the end. And yeah, if you have any questions, or I kind of skimmed over the show and you were kind of curious about it, you know, put it in the comments. All right, till next time.